mentioned to you, I saw Taylor Tomlinson, her new stand-up on Netflix. It's hilarious and it's honest and it's all about her therapy and her recent diagnosis with bipolar disorder. Talking about mental health now it's commonplace on TV. And I think that's so wonderful. And I wonder, what do you think about that?
I think when celebrities such as Taylor are so open, she normalizes issues that have to do with mental health. She talks about her own issues in a way that's funny, but also very serious. And she doesn't belittle herself in the process. You don't get the feeling that in any way is she less than or degrading herself. It's just part of who she is. I think she's terrific. Her challenge is, what she talks about, is, how do I integrate all of this to be the best that I can be?
I don't know if you've seen Ricky Gervais's show, Afterlife. It's a dark comedy about a man who's lost his wife. Kind of groundbreaking in the sense that you don't really see or hear a lot of men talking about their feelings.
I haven't seen his show, but I will see it. I'm a great fan of his. Someone suggested that I watch a show called Balthazar. It's a French series, and the main character is a forensic doctor, and he has lost his wife. And part of the plot line is that he was trying to solve her murder. But he talks to the people who are no longer with us. And that technique has been used obviously in other shows and other movies where someone is talking to their dead partner or their dead parent. But again, it speaks to the need to connect and to stay connected. And what that means as far as coming to terms with the loss of someone and grieving and not letting them go. Or how do we let them go? And that this is part of keeping them part of us and part of our life as we transition into another relationship with them spiritually and energetically, and feeling that they're with us. For men to be able to be portrayed as people with hearts, people who have a range of emotional responses. Because a typical one would either be quiet and shut down, or soldier on, don't cry, or let it out in some anger. All of which are within the realm of responses, but there are others. And I think that in order for all of us, men and women, to be able to really live with mourning and grief and death, that we have to be able to have models of people. And it sounds to me like this is a perfect model, because you can laugh and you can cry if you're allowed to.
Years ago, I worked for Donahue 30 years ago, and there were topics that nobody was talking about on TV. Over the decades that you've been on TV, how have you seen that change, and what do you think about that?
It has evolved. It is nowhere near where I would like to see it, particularly with issues such as suicide and drug addiction in families, depression in families, abuse. I remember talking about abusive relationships, and there was a study that had come out, and I was asked to talk about it in lots of different television and radio shows. And then there was one producer who said, no, I don't want to talk about that. Okay. And then she shared with me that she had been in an abusive relationship and it was really too difficult. She didn't want to bring that. She didn't think the host would want it. Okay. But if we were able to talk about these issues as if they were part of so many people's normal lives, we would be able to help those people understand, and the people who support them, what are ways to help people through these kinds of issues, even death. I mean, still, it's so challenging for people to talk about death in general. Once I was on the Donahue show, I was talking about sisters. Sisters was the topic of my first book. I wrote it in the 1980s. And we had a panel of sisters. There were sisters who were basketball players, one of whom won the Olympic gold medal. And she ended up, you may remember, taking the medal off and putting it on her sister because only one of them could be in the Olympics. And it was, just repeating it gives me goosebumps. And we had sisters who were famous, sisters who weren't famous. And one of the chapters in my book had to do with what happens when your sister dies and how do you deal with that and loss of a sister. Because, we know that our parents are going to die, but we kind of think our siblings are going to be with us forever. So when we lose a sibling in young adulthood or even older adulthood, it's really very, very challenging. He wanted to talk about that. And my publisher didn't want to talk about it. My publisher didn't want the book to have a chapter about when we lose our sibling. And I went to the Nat, but I lost because I wanted to have the book published. So I tried, whenever I was talking about the book publicly, to always include that. And I remember that Phil Donahue, he said, no, we really have to talk about this because this is such an important issue. So sometimes it's about the host, it's about the producer, it's about the venue that will say, yes, let's talk about that. Or they'll say, no, we want to keep it light and airy. Again, to your point of how can celebrities move ideas forward and bring them out into the open. When I was on the Today Show and I got a call, Robin Williams had taken his life. And they asked if I could come to the studio and talk about this. Here's this person who we really don't know and who shares with us such joy and such genius and such humor and such levity, who is suffering so. I took the opportunity to really expand on this is what depression, this is what bipolar, this is what mental health and mental illness and concern with emotional irregularity looks like. We don't talk about it. We talk about it in hushed tones. So I try to use those kinds of opportunities to share information about what's behind the act instead of just focusing on the act, but that as a community, as a family, we have a responsibility to kind of look out for each other and to support each other. And so it has evolved. It is nowhere near where I would like to see it, but we're getting there.